Have you ever been so terrified of insects that it affects every part of your life? Well, I can honestly say that was me. So I want to talk a little bit about how moths have actually changed my life. Firstly, I want to ask, does anybody else have fear of moths or insects in general? Comment below and let me know. For me, spiders, moths, bees and wasps, well, anything that flew, that's what I were mainly scared of. I don't know what I was seeing before, but if you just look at this Automeris moth, look how adorable he is. This is a death's head hawk moth, the first moth I ever raised, and let me tell you, I was so nervous. It took so long for me to even touch them, let alone handle them. After years of being completely afraid, I really wanted to change this. And not only for me, I wanted to do it for the kids. I want to raise them where they're not afraid of insects and they're not having that terror all the time and ruining their life from it. And for those out there who are really afraid, you'll understand what I mean when I say ruining your life. Because bugs are everywhere. When you go out, they're flying around you. And when you're scared of them, it's hard to live with. I first found the love for moths when I started doing macro photography, and I took the first photo of a wild moth. There was just something about the eyes and the antennae from these moths. I really never knew how sweet and adorable they looked close up. I always saw them as these really scary little tiny creatures. I was always scared about the way they flew around. But just look at this one, this eerie moth. These moths don't actually fly, but look how sweet he is. Sometimes you need to just sit back and think, actually, is this moth scary? Is this insect scary? It really does help you see them in a different light. When I was raising the eerie moth caterpillars, one escaped and it must have cocooned behind one of my wardrobes, and I actually found this one in the middle of the night. It's like I've gone from being absolutely terrified to actually sharing my bedroom with them. This one's an elephant hawk moth and he's actually native here in the UK. Look how stunning his colour is. And now that I've found this love for moths, I've started learning much more about what's around me. I never really understood how many beautiful moths we had native here in the UK. Finding that now, I go out and I'm looking for these moths. I can't wait, I get excited to see a new moth species and learn all about it. Whereas before, I was terrified, I was hiding away. I'd avoid anywhere that had anything to do with insects or bugs. You would never have caught me holding a caterpillar, and now I absolutely love it. And I am starting to see a real change with my kids too. My twins actually found a butterfly which my cat had, and they came to me and told me they'd been rescuing him.
And Milo had it in his mouth and he ran off when...
They didn't want him to get hurt, so they moved him into a safe place.
Mummy, you tried to kill it.
And you rescued him?
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well
Got off
done.
my arm. I think he had another.
Did you know that some people believe that moths symbolise change, transformation and growth? Some cultures even believe that it symbolises death and that they bring messages from the afterlife. And other cultures believe that moths symbolise your intuition and to trust your inner wisdom. And when you look at moths and how the world sees them, they're really underrated, unloved, and not seen as beautiful like the butterfly. And I suppose those of us who are drawn to moths can really relate to this. And moths can teach us that transformation is a natural part of life. Resilience can be beautiful, and even the smallest creatures have a profound impact on the world around them. Moth transformation, particularly the metamorphosis, mirrors the personal growth and changes we experience as humans. Just like moths, we go through distinct phases in life. Each one is shaping who we are and who we become. The cocoon stage represents periods of reflection and isolation. And where you're in the dark, you're unsure what's going to come. When a moth emerges from its cocoon, it becomes something completely different. It's beautiful and it's capable of flying. Similar to when we go through transformation life experiences such as overcoming struggles, navigating personal growth or achieving something new, we emerge with new perspectives, abilities and confidence. Like a moth, we take flight into the new chapter of our life. One of the biggest lessons we can learn from moths is that change, no matter how challenging, is a natural part of life. Whether it's personal growth, moving through stages of your career, or dealing with ups and downs, moths remind us that transformation is actually beautiful. And moths have a reputation of being drawn to the light, even when there's risk involved. And for us, even in the darkest of times, we're drawn to something that offers the promise of brightness and better outcomes. Much like a moth is searching for the moon, this reflects our capacity to keep thriving for improvement, for a brighter future, no matter how difficult the journey might be. Having the chance to raise these moths has shown me a lot of things about them, and that they do have their own personality. Just look at this one, a silkworm moth, and watch how he grooms his cell. I think it's completely adorable that even insects like moths do these natural things. And it's not just that, I've noticed so many silly things that moths actually do, so I want to show you them. I was feeding one of the deaf-head hawk moths and she actually decided to lick my hand, as you can see. I must have had some leftover honey on there that she could taste. And no, she's not trying to bite me, and no, it doesn't hurt either. Actually kind of tickles, and it's so sweet to actually watch her trying to do that. This is probably one of my most favourite clips. My twins asked if they could stroke him, and so I said, yeah, as long as you're gentle and you don't touch the wing. He was having none of it, which shows that they've just got this little personality about them. You can see him just like tap my little boy's finger away. And with the way that this moth was looking at me, I couldn't tell if she needed help or she were really enjoying herself. But this one really made me laugh. It's a bellavista moth, and I didn't realise that they actually like to play dead. So when I first ever raised them and she hatched, I tried to pick her up, and this is what she started doing. At first I panicked because I thought, what the heck is going on here? But if you look closely, you can actually see her breathing. So I knew she was alright. I tried getting some photos of her, and this is what she started doing. And honestly, it was the funniest thing ever. I left for a while and she did settle, but as you can see, I don't think she was very happy with me. She's telling me off by the looks of it. Some moths need to be hand fed, and so when I picked this one up to hand feed her, but it's things like this that really create the bond. It's like now I have to hand feed these moths, and you really start building a connection with them. I know it sounds really strange, but you really do. And this is another reason why moths can change your life. It's like now, like who would have thought I'd be start hand feeding a moth in my kitchen? But here I am, and I actually prefer doing this than socialising. And although it took a while for me to learn how to feed these moths, I've actually learned how to feed quite a few moths at the same time, which when you haven't got a steady hand can be difficult. But I think when you're really fast and you get good at it, it's a lot easier than you think. Every time I feed these moths, there's always something new and unexpected that they do. Some of them do tend to have like little paddies, or so it seems. Just watch how this one looks like it's dropped and runs towards the camera like, no, I don't want it, I don't want it. And sometimes it can take a few attempts when feeding these moths, but you do start getting used to it. And as you can hear, this moth squeaks, which is an absolute amazing sound. I was so shocked when I first ever raised them and I found out that they squeaked. I couldn't believe it. But they don't squeak all night, as you can imagine. I only really hear them squeaking when it's the first time I'm feeding them and they're unsure about what I'm doing. Once they get used to me, they're completely fine. They just don't seem to squeak that often. There is also times when a moth will get stuck in his pupa, and sometimes you have to intervene. Now, I've shown this on TikTok and YouTube a few times, and I've had a lot of hate to say why I'm helping him, why I'm not leaving nature to do what it needs to do. I've had people saying that I'm killing him and things like that, but really, how could I just sit and watch this little moth die in his pupa? Because that's what would happen. The pupa casing will dry and harden around him. I think there's multiple reasons how this can happen to your moth. One of them could be because the moth just wasn't strong enough to get through. It could be that there's not enough humidity or warmth. There could be too much warmth, too much humidity. It's all about finding the right balance. I had around 10 pupas in the same environment, and all of them hatched successfully apart from this one. Here I'm using a wet cotton bud just to try and soften the pupa casing, and then I'm able to use tweezers to remove the extra pieces of pupa. I've done this a few times now, but you do have to be extremely careful not to hurt your moth. And I will only ever intervene when there is no other option. And because I didn't get him out of the pupa casing in time, his wings didn't inflate properly. And I do find myself bonding with these ones a lot more. And although his wings didn't inflate and he can't fly, it doesn't affect him in any other way. He feeds and lives just as long as all the other moths. Another reason why I love moths so much is like, look at this one. She's got a little bubble on her, and this is from the saliva that they produce when they're inside the cocoon. It helps dissolve the cocoon so they can push the way out. She just has it left over on her face. Last year I raised some elephant hawk moth caterpillars and they overwintered, and this year one of them hatched. Now they will eat nectar from flowers, but I didn't have that available at the time, so I used some sugar water. I put some into a little dish, and I also put some into this hummingbird feeder. She was flapping around like this for about an hour, struggling to find it, but she knew there were food around because you can see her unravelling her proboscis. And as I was trying to guide her to her food to show her where it was, she kept on trying to lick my finger, and I just thought that was absolutely adorable. I ended up using a different dish, little bottle top, and she seemed to be able to find it a lot easier. As you can see, she's just started feeding. But when you sit and just watch how she does it, look how fast she flaps her wings and is able to hover the way she does. It's absolutely amazing to see. One of the most amazing moments about raising moths though has got to be witnessing one of the moths actually hatching from the pupa or the cocoon. I've sped this footage up to make it a bit quicker, but honestly, it's absolutely beautiful to see. When I know that they're due to hatch, I will literally be on edge all night, every single day, waiting for the moment just so I can watch it happen. You can sometimes tell when they're due to hatch because they still start feeling a bit baggy and the pupa can go a bit see-through. And I think they like to hatch when it's dark and quiet too, so usually on a night. I've noticed it can take about 30 seconds for them to hatch out the pupa. They'll crawl out and then they'll go and find somewhere high so they can inflate the wings. It's best not to handle them at this stage and give them a few hours so they can inflate and harden the wings. Now one of my all-time favourite, most beautiful moths has got to be this Luna moth, and you can probably see why. Just look how beautiful they actually are. And this Atlas moth too, absolutely beautiful. And there's times when you get even more of a special moment with these moths, like this eerie moth. She actually started laying eggs on my hand. I've also had times when I've had a silk moth lay eggs on my hand, and I always find it so special. And it's times like this you start learning even more about moths, just like how they actually lay the eggs. Not every day that you get to see a moth lay eggs so close up. And the best thing about seeing things like this is that I'm able to show my children it too. They can learn all about moths, insects, bugs, butterflies, and I'm hoping that they grow up to respect nature and things like that, rather than being terrified all the time. Now my twins seem to have fallen in love with all the moths and the insects and are learning about it. My older children on the other hand, it might take a little bit longer. They are still terrified of insects, but all I can do is just show them that actually they're not scary. I've raised quite a few moths over the time, but here's just a few. Make sure to let me know if you've ever held a moth, insect, or if you've been able to get over your fear too.
That one's crazy, I'm not lying. Just wing a little bit. Oh no! Oh, I don't like it, but I love it. But it never get off. No one gets off for me. No one gets off me.
It flew away. He's back.